What do beginners get wrong?
I think a lot of beginners get wrong is wanting to know all the answers, like everything from A to Z.
Where did you find your first deal?
So I got my first deal on the market on Zillow.
Welcome everyone to the Investor Daily podcast, where you make the information the star. Today we have a special guest. Joelvy de la Cruz is a full-time New York City police officer with zero experience in investing. He didn't join a community, didn't join a mastermind, and still closed seven deals just by following a blueprint. And today he's breaking down exactly how he got his first deal step by step. Joelvy, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. It's an honor to be here, man. I love being here, and I thank you for having me.
Awesome. And by the end of this podcast, you will know three things. I put four. Three things: how to find motivated sellers, what to say to sellers on your first call. That's a biggie. How to structure and close your first deal step by step. Let's get right to it. Joelvy, what was your situation before real estate?
Awesome, man. Oh, yeah. And again, thank you for having me. And before real estate, honestly, it was like every day was kind of like the same thing. Like I was working. I'm still active right now, but back in around 2020, 2021, I started seeing a lot of different things. A lot of people, a lot of my coworkers, a lot of my older coworkers that was getting ready to retire, I started seeing them, put in a lot of overtime, working hard because they were getting ready to leave, retire. So they were kind of like patching up their pension. And then myself, I was hungry. I was young, I was motivated. So I was working a lot of hours. And even, being young, I still felt that that overtime burnout where I was working so much where I came home and I was super, super tired. And funny enough, I came home one day and like normal, like everybody, I would get on my phone and I would start scrolling and I would start seeing different people pop up on my Instagram feed. And a few of those people were the guy that we all know, Pace Morby, Robert Kiyosaki, someone who's like a legend with the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then Grant Cardone. And, Grant Cardone being the big person that he is, the big salesman that he is, he was able to kind of like, not convince me, but he's such a good salesman that I kind of heard his story and I was like, oh, this actually makes sense. I listened to a couple of the things he did. I paid for like a small time online thing that didn't end up working out because, again, I was brand new. I wasn't going to buy a 300 unit apartment complex building for my first deal. So, that didn't end up working out. Then I started reading what Robert Kiyosaki and the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book started saying. And I started doing traditional real estate after taking like a local mentor, and nothing was working because interest rates were going up, prices were high. I couldn't get a regular deal to save my life. Then I found Pace Morby and I started listening to what he had to say and about creative finance, seller finance, subject to all these creative ways of getting a deal. And I literally copied what him and his leaders were doing in their communities and in their market. And I copied and pasted into my market in Connecticut. And I went out, took action, did the thing, and started getting deals from there.
Awesome. So shout out to Instagram algorithms for presenting real estate in your direction, and then you bid and you took it. So that's incredible action taken. Now let me tell you this. Now that you have some experience, what do beginners get wrong?
I think a lot of beginners get wrong is wanting to know all the answers, like everything from A to Z. That's like one thing that a lot of people get wrong is like they jump into this and they think they need to know everything to at least start moving forward and start taking action. You don't need that. And then two, they think they need like all the money. Like, where's the money coming from? The concept of being able to do real estate without using your own money doesn't hit them right away. So they're always either thinking like, oh, I need to save up. I need to make sure I know everything and I have a bunch of money saved up. And those two things, those beliefs are what hold a lot of people back. And those are the type of things I like to preach and say to a lot of people, that you don't need that. You don't need to know everything to take, proper action moving forward. And you don't need a bunch of money saved up just to do your first deal. So definitely those things for sure.
Yeah, we overcomplicate things sometimes, and that first step is usually the biggest step, and then they get shorter, right? So that's kind of the trick bag, is that first step, right? Just don't overcomplicate it. Follow a blueprint like I'm going to describe to you here in this podcast, and hope this is helpful to you, right? Again, we overcomplicate things. Actually, they are simpler than we think they are, right?
Yep.
So let's get into the first step, right? Where did you find your first deal?
So I got my first deal on the market on Zillow. So all of us have access to Zillow. All of us have access to either Redfin, Realtor.com. I found my first deal on Zillow. It was back in 2023 when, again, interest rates were high. I couldn't find anything traditional. And what did I go after? I went after a house that was on the market for over 120 days. So this was, yep, 120 days. This was a motivated seller because they couldn't sell their house to anyone. He kept it on the market, couldn't get any offers. What I did was I called that listing up, and I was lucky enough to be able to speak directly to the seller, who happened to be an investor. So I pitched them, and I simply said, listen, I know what's going on. Why haven't you sold your house? He gives me, a whole bunch of information. And then I say, if I come up to your asking price or more, will you allow me to make payments to you instead of me going to a bank and getting a bank loan? And the seller actually said yes to that. But he said, give me a 6% interest return on investment on the mortgage, on the seller finance mortgage. And I had the opportunity to tell him no. I was able to tell him absolutely not. No, we're not going to be able to do that. And for months and months and months after that, we started negotiating. We started going back and forth. And then I was able to finally get him down to a 2% interest rate, 10% down payment. And we amortized that loan over 40 years. And that brought my payment to $953 per month. And I knew I could rent that house out for well over $2,500. So that was my first deal right there.
That's a handful. Thank you for the intel. I appreciate it. Hopefully the viewers can get some knowledge of how you did it. So what were your daily routines, and what will you tell someone to do today?
So the first thing I would tell someone to do today is you got to be able to put yourself in a room that will not only, one, change your mindset, but two, at least put you in the right direction and, guide you in the right direction so you can copy what someone's doing and implement it in your market, because that's what I did. I had the benefit of joining the Elephant Challenge back when I think they were doing multiple cycles a year in the sub-2 community. And when I joined the Elephant Challenge, I was able to jump into a group that were doing creative finance deals in California. So I didn't even partner up with a community that was doing things in Connecticut. I was able to jump into a group that was doing things all the way in California. And all I did was copy what they did and paste it in Connecticut in my market. And then I went out and went to go get deals and everything like that. One second. Let me just get this. Edit this out. My bad. I needed to get the dog. Okay. So my bad. Just needed to get the dog.
I'll take it. I'll take it for you. So let's recap. Kind of your step one is find a motivated seller, and you kind of mentioned 120 days on market. Can you elaborate? Just let's close on that so people can understand what your process was in the beginning.
Yeah. So Once I was able to find a motivated seller, I needed to find out a little bit more details in when I was talking to him, a little bit more details of if they either own the house free and clear. And what I did to find those things out is I asked pretty much the 4 pillars, which is, how much did they want for a purchase price, which was on Zillow. And then obviously they told me their price because they listed it on Zillow. 2, the condition of the house. What was the condition? Because I could only see the pictures, but I couldn't see the actual condition. I didn't walk the property yet. I don't walk any properties until I have an agreement in place. 3, the motivation. So why is the seller selling? Why is the seller selling this place? Are they moving from one state to another? Is this a home owner occupied house, or is this an investment house? And then number 4 is obviously their timeline. Do they need to sell right away? Do they need to sell, in 6 months? Do they need to sell before the end of the year, because of tax purposes? So those 4 things allowed me to find some type of other motivation other than the 6 months that they were listed on the market.
How did you get out of your own way? Were you nervous? Were you angsty? This is where a lot of people struggle, is literally getting out of their own way. How did you overcome that?
A lot of no's, a lot of NO's. I called nonstop. When I was able to jump into the Elephant Challenge and jump into the group of leaders that were doing this, I made a lot of calls. I put in a lot of offers, and I got told no a lot.
Joelvy, on that first call that you ever made, talking to a prospective seller, what were you feeling? Were you nervous? What was going on? And how do you overcome that? Because a lot of investors or newbies are so much in their head that they can't get over that first step, and they lose confidence before they even, get started, right? So how do you overcome that? How can you help people understand that process?
Number 1 thing is making sure you call a lot of people, because without the repetition of calling multiple sellers and understanding the counters, or understanding the rebuttals or things like that, to be able to speak to them and speak to them confidently and relay the message and relay the information of what is creative finance, what is seller finance, what is subject to, things like that. Being able to do that confidently all comes from repetition. So a lot of people say, like, getting a lot of no's gets you closer to the next yes, or your first yes. All of that is true. Making sure you go out there, put in the reps, make those phone calls, get a lot of no's on your offers, and that's how you get closer to your first yes. So that's what I was able to do to build my confidence. And that's what I would tell anyone that's cold calling, going out there, looking for deals and everything like that, to be able to feel confident and lose those kind of like jitters of making phone calls to sellers.
You remember that first call that you ever made?
The first ever call that I ever made, I knew I botched it 100%. The first call. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. My first deal did not come from my first call, from my second call, or even my like 50th call. It did not work out like that. I was making multiple calls and I made a lot of mistakes. Sometimes I didn't know what to say, but this is the powerful thing about being able to jump in a group that's already doing it, that's already well versed, is that one thing that you can easily say, and you can actually do this now if you don't know what to say, is you can easily say, hey, you can start off with the basics, get the 4 pillars, and get to the point where you can say, hey, if we're able to give you your full asking price or more, would you be interested in a creative finance offer? And if they say, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Creative finance or terms or seller finance or subject to? If anyone says that, you can easily say, what I can do is I can set up an appointment with my team, with my partner, and they can get on the phone and explain everything to you. And what you do is you bring that opportunity now, and that motivated seller, or not motivated seller, but that potential lead, and bring it to the team that's already doing this, that's already well versed in it, and that way they can close it out and you can still be able to move on and get closer to getting your first yes on a deal.
Yes. In that first deal, were any situations that you were iffy and you were like, oh man, this might not happen and something might go wrong?
Oh yeah, and that goes. I feel like that goes for everybody. In my first deal, once I had it under contract, and once I was able to raise the money from like a private money lender, and I was getting ready to close, in the back of my head, I was honestly thinking like, is this actually going to rent out for what I projected the rent to be? Because it was a vacant property. I'm not inheriting any tenants, so I was very nervous about that aspect. Like, how long is it going to take for me to rent this out? But one of the most powerful and one of the most incredible things happened when I listed that house on Zillow. There was actually an insurance company that reached out to that Zillow listing. I replied, and they said they have a displaced family that needs a place to stay. It was a mother, father, multiple kids, and a big dog that needed a place to stay for just 3 months. And they told me that they were going to pay me in rent double what I was asking for $2,500. They said that they were going to pay me $5,000. Do you know what I told the person, the insurance company, over the phone? I said, you're a liar and you're a scam. I'm not talking to you again. Click. So again, I didn't know any better. Then they replied back via email. They reached back out. And I finally picked up the phone again and I said, listen, the only way I will do this, if the security deposit and the first month's rent clears in my bank account and I'm able to vet the tenants like a regular traditional lease. So I have to check their background, their credit check, their criminal check, everything. I wanted to make sure that these people are who they are. And sure enough, I did that, and the bank check cleared for $15,000 first month's and last month's rent. And the security deposit was 2 months and the first month's rent for the security deposit. And that check cleared, and I literally got a $15,000 check in my bank account that cleared. And I was like, okay, here you go, insurance company. Here's your 3 months lease to the displaced family. And when I got that, I was like, oh my goodness, this is the best thing in the world. And then once they left 3 months later, I rented it out for $2,500 for a long-term tenant. And that was like the best thing that ever could happen to me after worrying about if it was going to go wrong or not.
Yeah. Joelvy, after that first deal, what changed? Did it get easier, or what was your approach after that?
It definitely got easier. And one thing that got easier was the analysis paralysis part about it. Because all of us start off and all of us are second guessing the numbers. All of us are triple checking, quadruple checking the numbers, making sure that it works. If I'm raising capital, am I about to lose this investor's capital in my first deal? Is this going to work out? Is this house going to rent? But once I got that first deal and I was able to get my first tenant, and I saw the demand for single family houses at $2,500 a month in that area, I literally was like, okay, I already know this is going to work. And the next deal after that was not a deal far away. It was the house right next door. And why was I able to get that house right next door? Because I went to the house as I was fixing it up, doing a nice paint, light fixtures, things like that. I spoke to each one of the neighbors and I said, hey, how you doing? This is who I am. Just so you know, I'm going to rent this house out. If you have any problems, here's my my phone number. Give me a call if you have any issues or anything like that. And sure enough, the next door neighbor wanted to sell their house. They were an investor, and then boom, got that house as well.
That's awesome. Joelvy is not always sweet dreams. What's anything that sucked about the process of kind of being an investor now? Have you had any challenges?
Oh yeah. And the challenge actually happened before I came an investor. And this kind of hits home for everyone, is making sure you know who to trust, making sure you know who to partner up with and making sure you know who you're doing business with. Because when I started off, funny enough, this house that I got, this 2% interest, might have not been my first deal if it wasn't for me not getting this lesson, not learning this lesson. And it was someone else took away a deal from me. And how they took away the deal from me was that I was cold calling a lot. I actually got a seller to verbally say yes to a seller finance offer, and we got it under contract, but I did not have the money for it. This was a commercial building. It was like a 5 and up, 5+ building. So I needed a huge down payment for it. I started to raise the capital for it, and I found someone that verbally told me yes, they were going to fund the deal. Then what happened was I trusted them to come walk the property with me so they can see it, they can, feel comfortable with it. But what happened was that once we walked the property and we came back and we started talking about how we're going to close it out, how we're going to finalize it, they switched up on me and they said, "Oh no, we're going to switch the terms on you. We're not going to give you the percentage that you wanted. We're only going to give you 10%." And that was kind of like a stab in the back to me, because again, I found the deal, I negotiated it for multiple months, I brought it to the table, and I thought that I was bringing in someone that I trusted. And what happened was that they saw the deal that I was getting, they refused to partner up with me, and they waited until that deal fell out of contract, and then all they did was reach out to the seller and said, "Oh, we'll do the deal now." So they stabbed me in the back and took the deal. So that's a learning lesson for a lot of people that are in this, that are jumping, that are partnering up, doing deals together, is making sure you protect yourself. Now, the learning lesson that I learned was that every single deal that I present to a potential partner, I make them sign an NDA. I make them sign an NDA and make sure that they're not going to do the same thing that happened to me when I started off. Because that deal was a commercial deal, and we know those properties are not valued based on recent comps like single family and 2 to 4. Those properties are valued based on the income that they bring. So that deal right there could have made me tenfold of what I could have made, but obviously someone went behind my back. They took the deal from me. Fine, it fell out of contract. I couldn't find anybody else, but pretty much they did me dirty, and that's the lesson that I learned from that, jumping into real estate.
The word of the day, discernment. It's a very important word. Look it up. It's crucial, especially in this space, that you don't know who's who. Everybody present themselves in a way that they imply who they are. They fake it till they make it. There's a lot of sly folks in this space, so be mindful of that and look up the word. It's really important.
My wife says it all the time. What
it means, right? So let's kind of recap your first deal again, right? I want to go over the recap, how you structured it, and then what are the 3 steps that someone should take this week to move forward.
Absolutely. So the first deal, I was able to lock it up and I'll give you the full breakdown. Sure. When I called the seller, I told him, "Hey seller, I will give you," he was listed for $300,000 on Zillow for over 120 days. This was an investor who was not an owner occupied. So he was going to pay capital gains on the house. He didn't get his price because he obviously was at 300, couldn't get an offer, anything. He couldn't get anything above that or even 300. So I simply said, "I'll give you your full asking price or more if you allow me to make payments directly to you." We finally agreed to give him a purchase price of $350,000, 10% down as a down payment, and a 2% interest rate, amortized over 40 years. And that brought me to a monthly payment to the seller of $953. My first ever tenant came in for 3 months and paid me $5,000, which was an insurance company. So we're talking about midterm rentals here. An insurance company came in, paid me $5,000 for 3 months, And then when they left, I rented it out for $2,500 a month. So that was my first ever deal right there.
Yeah, and again, let's leave the people with what are the first 3 action steps that they should do?
Number 1, get in the right rooms. Number 1, get in the right rooms with the right people, because if you're surrounded by people that 1, don't know about this, or 2, don't believe in this stuff, don't believe in real estate, they're just going to bring you down. So mindset is number 1, getting around people that know this, getting around people that are doing this, so that mindset shift could change. So that's number 1. Number 2 is taking improper action. You do not need to know everything. You do not need to know everything about everything. You just need to find out what someone's doing successful and just copy and paste it. That's all you need to do. Find out what someone did and just do it. So in this case, you can go on Zillow, which is free for everyone. You can literally categorize it so you can find houses that have been listed there for over 6 months or over 90 days, whichever one you prefer. And you can call those agents, or you can be lucky, and if it's a for sale by owner, call those homeowners and literally say this: if I give you your full asking price or more, or if I come up to your asking price, will you allow me to make payments directly to you instead of going to a bank and getting a bank loan? Some people will be like, what the heck are you talking about? That's when you can bring that individual to the network that you've been networking with. Or if you've already studied it and learned it, you can go ahead and explain it to them from there.
You now have your assignment. Do the work, stay aligned, stay centered and focused. If you need help on your mindset issues, I have a PDF in my stand store that the link will be below. You can work on your mindset. Just read through the notes. It'll keep you centered and aligned. Hopefully that works. Joelvy, where can they connect with you if people want to get to know you better?
Obviously on social media. If you guys see it, Cops to Cash Flow. If you guys want to follow on Cops to Cash Flow. If you guys on Facebook, my name, Joelvy de la Cruz. So definitely reach out, DM me. And I host a weekly Zoom every single week where I do a Q&A for free. Anybody that wants to join, you can jump in. You can ask all the questions. If you have a scenario or something like that where you got to run through it, if you have any questions, I go over it every single week. Jump in, reach out, DM me so I can get you into the Zoom. All right?
Thank you, Joelvy, for coming. Creative Listings, that's our sponsor. Shout out to Creative Listings. This is where you find non-traditional properties that you can go visit. This is not like a Zillow or Redfin. This is totally different. This is strictly subject to seller finance deal. This is what 99% of the people don't know. Creative Listings, shout out to them for being a sponsor of our podcast. Joelvy, again, thank you for your service. Appreciate you coming on the podcast. You drop dimes on them. Now it's them to do the work.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure, man.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for showing out and showing out.
Thank you, brother.